Hi guys, and welcome back to Movies That Matter with the Viking. And today, some interesting reports, some interesting rumors have come out in the last 24 hours. Now, as you may remember, the other day we talked about Zack Snyders showing his cut of Justice League to Warner Bros. AT&T in February. Now, that was very exciting, very interesting to hear, and a step in the right direction for the movement and for Zack Snyder. But in the last 24 hours, some people have been dropping hints and rumors saying that Zack Snyders Justice League could drop on HBO MAX in episodic form as a mini-series, as a limited series. Okay, now you're probably wondering, how is this going to work? It's made to be a film. It's a film. Well, if Zack gets to go back and shoot the additional scenes he wants to shoot, and if Warner Brothers, AT&T, HBO Max give him money to go back and do that, let's say 50, 60 million, he goes back and he shoots the scenes that he wants to add into it, the likes of scenes with Martian Manhunter, with Superman, with Batman. Maybe he shoots some more scenes as well. Now, of course, me personally, I'd love to see the actual film that Zack Snyder had in mind. And maybe that's a 3.5-hour film. Okay, but Zack has said that he has an assembly cut of 5 hours. 5 hours of the Justice League interacting and fighting villains. Now that sounds pretty cool. Now, Zack's films have always been very long, and they've always been kind of cut down. Sucker Punch, there's a director's cut, we've never seen of that. Of course, Batman vs Superman, Justice League. I think he was happy enough with Man of Steel. So, and Watchmen was cut down a little bit as well. So he always has a longer version, a longer vision in mind for everything. But just imagine a 10-episode Zack Snyder's Justice League. It'd be very interesting, wouldn't it? Now, of course, it's supposed to be a film. But if Zack was able to go back and edit it in a way that he wanted, to shape it into a series, I'm sure he could pull it off. He's very good at getting concepts from the comic book onto the big screen, whether that be dialogue, the way a scene is shot, the way the character looks, the way the story is going. He's very good at doing that. So why wouldn't he be able to do that in episodic form? I think he would be able to do that very well. A series from Zack Snyder would be very like a comic book. You know, you enter one part, you go on to the next part, you get interested like a series. So, me personally, that would be very cool. It would be very unique to see something of such high budget, with such high status of these characters, of Batman and Superman, in a limited series. Brilliant. Now, the HBO Max is designed to get into the streaming wars. The streaming wars, of course, is with Netflix, with Disney Plus, with Amazon Prime, with Hulu, with the other streaming services. It's a war to get as many subscribers as you can. Now, Netflix has a great variation in what it produces, and it got some good stuff and some bad stuff, but it got some interesting stuff like The Irishman was on it. Zack Snyder has a movie of his own coming out in that very soon. So Netflix is very good. Disney Plus is all Disney centered, and it has all the Star Wars stuff, it has all the Marvel films, it has all that, and that's a very good attraction. Now, if you remember when Disney Plus first started, The Mandalorian was the go-to headline thing for Disney Plus. Now, you watched one episode, you had to stay subscribing to see the follow-up episodes week by week, and that was their headline, and that's how they attract people. Now, imagine HBO Max did a marketing campaign where they had Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, the biggest characters in the world, in a series of 10 episodes or 5 episodes or 8 episodes. I don't know exactly what it would be, but imagine that. Imagine the subscribers, imagine the attraction, imagine the headlines. The marketing would probably be done by itself because those characters are such high status. Now, Star Wars is big, The Mandalorian is big, but it's nothing compared to Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. You know, the Mandalorian is not like it was Luke Skywalker series or Obi-Wan Kenobi series. This is the peak of comic book characters. And that's something that is it is likely to happen. It's a possibility. Now, you're probably saying, how can this work? Now, Zack Snyder has a very unique way of storytelling. But in ways, just stay with me now for a second, it's very similar to the way Quentin Tarantino directs. Quentin doesn't have this big, elaborate plot, okay? Those Zack Snyder films do. But the way he shoots his scenes with his characters, they're kind of little small short stories within the story. Pulp Fiction, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, The Hateful Eight. It's broken up, and you could shoot Pulp Fiction into a series, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood into a series. And he's already done that for Hateful Eight for Netflix. He cut it down into little miniseries. So, so Quentin was able to do it. I'm sure Zack Snyders will be able to do it because the two of them are very similar, the way they tell stories within stories. So, for example, in Zack Snyders' storytelling, if you go back to Batman vs. Superman, you can probably, if you're a big fan, you can remember each phase of that film. You can remember, like, each scene is different from the last. It tells a story within its own story. So, one example is that I love that scene with Lex and Senator Finch comes to meet him at his house. And the two of them have a dialogue and they talk. And then it ends with Lex Luthor saying, that picture there, that should be upside down. And then the score comes in. That's like a little tiny story within a story. I love that scene very much. The Batman warehouse scene could be told in its own, released on its own. The Batman vs. Superman scene, the end, the Wonder Woman fighting Doomsday, all that scene at the very end. Then the funeral seems like a completely different thing. So it's all broken down into unique phases. And I can remember as a fan, and I'm sure you can too, of each phase in that film, and each scene is very different from the last, and it tells a story. And that's why I love Batman vs. Superman so much, because I can distinctively tell each phase and what happened in that scene and how it's a story within itself, but it all propels into the main overall story of the film. And I'm sure Zack Snyders Justice League was the very same because it has so many characters. Man of Steel was a little bit different because it's one character telling the story of Superman. Watchmen was very similar to Batman vs. Superman in the way it told little stories along the way. We met each character, flashbacks, things like that. So it definitely could work. But HBO Max need to get into the streaming wars. They need to hit it big. They do not have a headline thing at the minute. They don't. Disney Plus had The Mandalorian. Netflix has loads of different things, you know. So HBO Max to stand out different, to be different, needs to have something unique. It needs to have a headline thing to pique interest, to get people talking. And that's a big thing. If they were able to do that, imagine the subscriptions that would come in. And HBO Max, I'd like to think they're not stupid, the people who run the business. Now, maybe on the 27th, there will be an announcement made that Zack Snyders Justice League will come out. Now, Grace Randolph hinted at this in her video yesterday. She said that HBO Max do not have a headline thing like The Mandalorian, but if they were to make an announcement about Zack Snyders Justice League and maybe release it in the way The Mandalorian was released, kind of in that way, then that would be a big win for HBO Max. And then someone asked her, is this referring to Zack Snyders Justice League being released in an episodic form? And all she did was give a wink. So maybe Grace knows things. I personally like Grace. She can say some weird things, but look, I think she's very likable, and she's been a good advocate for the Snyder Cut movement in the last year or so. So I'm interested in what she has to say, but she's not the only one. Taylor Murphy of Culture Nerd has been saying things like this as well. Dave the Film Junkie, if you follow his channel, he said stuff on Twitter before last year saying, would you rather see the whole film or would you rather see it broken down into episodes? Stephen Colbert, who writes for Screen Rant, last year made an article about this, about The Mandalorian is Disney Plus's thing, and HBO Max is kind of implementing shows like Green Lantern. Zack Snyders Justice League wouldn't be a bad idea to do that in that form either. So people have been, this isn't just new, people have been talking about this for a while, and it seems to be getting a little bit more traction right now. It seems to be picking up a little bit more. We don't know if it's true or not. I'm happy with whatever way Zack Snyder wants to release the film, and I'm sure Zack has this vision in his head either as a film or as a series. Now maybe Zack went to HBO Max with this pitch and said, look, I have this idea, I can shape this into a 10 episode series. And HBO Max, like that could be a little bit better. Because with that being better, you could highly anticipate each episode. If episode one ends in a massive cliffhanger and people are talking, it gets discussion on Twitter, people can't wait till next week's episode, then that creates buzz, it creates new subscriptions. You know, imagine the talk on Twitter when the first episode is released or the trailer for it is released, and this is going to be 10 episodes or 8 episodes. Usually attractive things going on there, and it gets me excited even thinking about it. Now, if it was, Zack would have to go back and shape it into a TV series. I don't think you'd be able to cut it up into little pieces the way it is and make it into a series. I think he needs to shape it up, probably add a bit more different score to have an ending for that scene, to maybe shoot an extra scene to kind of fill out things. But another thing that has me very interested is Zack's films always get kind of cut. And we've seen in Batman vs Superman, the Ultimate Edition, he didn't get to stretch his characters out in the way that he wanted. Now, in a series, he could do so much character development. He could broaden things out so much more than he could in a film. He could add more things to Aquaman, Batman, Wonder Woman, more deepness to the characters, and Cyborg is supposed to be the heart of this film. So it'd be very interesting to see if this has to happen in a series form. I'd take it, because I've been waiting 3 years. We've all been waiting 3 years for this to happen. I would absolutely take it as an episodic form. It would be very cool. I kind of joked on my Twitter, like, hashtag release the Snyder Cut episode 1. 9 episodes in the form of a Star Wars kind of storytelling. It would be pretty cool. And this would only create buzz, anticipation. And Zack Snyder is a smart man. This could lead to a season 2, a season 3, and he could actually get to fulfill his vision of what the DC Comics Justice League should be, how these characters should be depicted, and where they're going in their character development. Now, a lot of people give him shit over the way Superman was portrayed, but I always go back to this. Do you not like character development? Do you not like seeing a character come from here and then get to here? Because I love that in the storytelling. All the great TV shows, all the great movies that I've ever watched, they've had absolutely brilliant telling of character development. There's no point meeting a character here and then he's the exact same here. What's the point in that? That's boring. It's not interesting whatsoever. And Zack Snyder was doing that with Wonder Woman, with Superman, because those are the complaints that people have about his storytelling. Imagine a series where he would be able to flesh out the characters a little bit more, like some Wonder Woman and Aquaman, things like that. That would be very interesting. Now, if you go back to January when the Watchmen TV series was released with Damon Lindelof, and that was a huge success, and that created huge buzz, and that's a masterpiece of a show. 9 episodes of pure brilliance. Imagine that in a Zack Snyder form for Justice League. And if he got to go back and shoot additional scenes, who's to say that he wouldn't add more things in? He wouldn't add extra bits to kind of make it into an episodic form. That would be interesting. Who knows? He could even bring J.J. Abrams on as a producer, or Damon Lindelof come in and it could write more scenes and do something new. You know, Zack Snyder, he's very good on a budget. Look at 300. He made that film for about 50 million, 60 million, and it grossed over 300 or something like that. So he can work within a budget and he can make something happen. And I've seen people talk that if he does get a good bit of money to go back, we might get to see the OG Steppenwolf form, the one we got to see in Batman vs Superman, which I thought was perfect for the character. And I was very bummed out when I seen trailers and that they had changed the design of him. Now, even in Zack's cut, that's the way he looks. That we got to see in the attached cut. He might be a little bit different in emotion wise and things like that. I'm sure the CGI is a little bit better, but that kind of concept was what was going to be in detached in Zack Snyder's cut of Justice League, because Warner Brothers deemed Steppenwolf too scary for kids. But this is going to be on a streaming service, then you don't have to worry about those kind of things. You don't have to worry about box office. You don't have to worry about kids going to see the film to get more money in the box office, because it's going to be on a streaming service. So we might get to see some of the OG concepts that were in the original concept of the script that Chris Terrio and Zack Snyder have made up, that they had to go back and rewrite and make the Justice League that he shot. So you might get to add elements back into this cut of Justice League. It all depends on how much money HBO Max are willing to give him, how much time they're willing to give him to shape it into an episodic form or into the film form that he wants to release it in. Is it going to be 3.5 hours film? Is it going to be a 3-hour film? Is it going to be a 5-hour assembly cut shaped into an episodic TV series? We don't know yet. This is just talk. But it's not just been talk from the last few days. This has been talk that's been happening in the last year or two from certain people who have suggested the idea. Now, maybe they heard something. I don't know if they did or not. But now you have more high-profile people with big followings saying it, like Grace Randolph. She's been winking, hinting at that maybe on the 27th that it could be announced that Zack Snyder's Justice League is coming to HBO Max. Now that would just break the internet for the release the Snyder Cut movement, for the Zack Snyder's Justice League movement, which is very exciting. I just can't wait for the 27th. Now, this is HBO Max's launch date. This is the day that they hit the button and it's available. So that's a big day for us as a movement to go and respectfully, in a positive manner, show our voice and to get us probably trending. Last time we trended above HBO Max when they were revealing what was going to be on their streaming service, but HBO Max do not have, and that's that big right now. They do not. They don't. Now, we know that the Green Lantern and the Justice League Dark series are coming down the line, but that's not for a long time yet because they haven't even started shooting on those shows. I don't even know if the scripts are created yet, so they don't really have anything. They've got old content, but they've also got some new things that's coming to it, but there's nothing there that really jumps out and catches your attention like a Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman series or film would. That would just stand out, and you could shape your marketing around that. And the fans, we've already done enough marketing for the Snyder Cut release for Zack Snyders Justice League. You could save a lot of money, and a lot of the actors could do that on their own social media pages. So this is exciting. So the other day we heard that Zack Snyder got to show his cut of Justice League to Warner Brothers, AT&T. AT&T own Warner Brothers, of course, and they make the big decisions. And they will, if they see money with Zack Snyder's Justice League, then they will release Zack Snyder's Justice League. The people who were there at Warner Brothers who said they didn't want to see the film in 2017, they're the ones that will have egg on their faces, and they don't want to release because it makes them look bad. But AT&T is the big business suits, and they decide what happens. And if they see money, they want money. So then we hear that Zack Snyder might get to release it in episodic form. Either way, I am happy enough. Let me know what you think. Do you want to see it as a film? Do you want to see it in episodic forms? Would you take a 10-hour Justice League series directed by Zack Snyder? It sounds pretty cool if you ask me. Or should it just be released on its own? What do you think? And do you want it on HBO Max, or do you want it in theaters? To me, I don't mind. I just want to see it. Anyway, guys, like, comment, subscribe. Come follow me on Twitter at MovieWolf100. Come follow me on Instagram at Movies That Matter, the Viking. Until next time, stay positive.